Hey, what's going on, guys? My name is James. Today's video, you guessed it, is about another Moog patch. So today we're going to be making kind of a really interesting, patch. It's more like almost like one of those gabber kick drums, or even just really interesting like pulse width sounds, things like that. You'll kind of hear what I'm talking about as we start to create this patch. So for this, you're going to need 4 patch cables. So just kind of gather those up before you start. Just makes it a little bit easier. And let's kind of start getting this set up. So right now we have kind of your typical, as always, just sawtooth patch. So nothing too special there. But what we're going to do now is we're going to switch this to pulse width. We're going to keep the pulse width right at about 50%, so if we listen to that, it's our pulse width wave. So nice and gritty, nice bass. We're going to bring in a little bit of white noise, add some grit to it. So now we have a nice little bit of that, not really pure sound, which makes it a little bit more gritty and dirty. We're going to bring our cutoff down to about 50% and turn our VCF mod amount up to 100. So now if we listen to that, actually I'm going to turn off sustain here too. So it's just kind of that gritty, plucky square wave that is kind of typical of the synth. Now what we're going to do is we're going to turn the LFO rate up to a little bit below 50%. We're going to bring the VCO mod amount up to a little bit under 20%-ish. So if you listen to that, now it's starting to get a little bit crazy. Maybe we can bring down the LFO a little bit less of that. So now we're starting to get that phasing sound that's kind of the characteristic of that pulse width wave. And that's kind of a decent place to be starting with this sound. So I'm going to add a little bit of resonance. So just a little bit of character to it. And let's see, so I'm going to turn the decay right to actually about there. I'm going to turn the attack all the way up. And that kind of seems a little bit odd, but as we start to use this patch bay in a second, it's going to make a lot more sense. So if we listen to that now, it's going to sound kind of weird. It's like phasing in and then just suddenly cutting out. But let's see, so we're going to need these 4 patch cables, and before I do that, I'm going to just turn on VCA mode. So now we kind of have that low drone, but if we start to play, like already that is a cool sound, but now we're going to kind of add a little bit of FM synthesis to that. So we're going to be using this linear FM input up here. So the first patch that we're going to make is our envelope to the multiplier port, or MULT. We're going to take the first mult output and we're going to patch that up to the VCA control voltage. Now this might seem redundant, as you can just use the envelope generator here to modulate your VCA, but essentially what this is doing is you have your VCA at a certain level. So that's what it's set at right now. It's just kind of sitting there droning. But then what happens is if you patch in another source, that is going to add an extra bit of voltage onto that. So if we listen to this here, actually let me just turn this down here, just for example. Let me unplug it. So you can hear we're getting a little bit more volume, and it's essentially like clipping itself. It's like those old tricks that they used to do with the Voyager or the Mini Moog, where they would patch the output into the input and then run it through itself. And that would essentially cause the audio to double up on itself and create a really distorted, overdriven sound. So this isn't exactly going to do that, since you're not patching the output into the input of the sound overall, but that extra little bit of volume will kind of max out the output of this and give you a little bit more grit to it. So again, if you listen to that without it, it sounds kind of wimpy. There's a little bit more to it essentially by using that VCA input there. So we're going to take our second multiplier output and we're going to patch that into our mix 2, and then finally our VC mix over to the VCO linear FM There. So now let's see, if we turn the attack back to where we had it, and then we leave our decay right about there. If we start to play, actually let me set up the sequencer here. So I'm going to turn the tempo down to, I believe it's about 40%, and I'm just going to press play. So now we're just starting to get like a steady beat, but obviously since our envelope is really long, we don't hear the full envelope, but we can start to add in some of this FM here. So now we're starting to get this really interesting modulating wave. And we can start to play around with the decay settings. So if we're doing that, it kind of sounds a little bit interesting, but as we bring in the decay, and if we play around with the attack a little bit, this is where that kind of gabber kick drum sound that I was talking about comes in. So this is our sound without any sort of FM like synthesis in it, and this is, we just start to bring that in. We get that like really interesting pluck sound, and we mess around with the cutoff too. Be a really cool build-up for some songs too. You know, that's kind of the thing that I love about the synthesizer, is that it really can be used for every part of the song. It can be a bass, it can be a lead, it can be your drums. There are ways to make snare and kick drums with this. It can also be effects too, like this, being like a build-up to, you know, a drop or something like that. You know, kind of that rise in the pitch and everything kind of coming up from under the bottom of the song, and then, you know, leading up to that big reveal of the drop or whatever you have. It really is versatile, and that's one thing that I love about this synth. It's almost like that TB303 sound there with the resonance. It reminds me of that part of deadmau5's Cthulhu Sleeps, where, like, right around that middle part where it has this kind of really different sound that slowly gets faster and faster. Like I said, this thing really makes all sorts of different sounds, and I love that. So that's why I'm able to keep making these videos, is essentially there's so much capability built into such a small package. I really can't actually imagine the amount of sounds that you can make with one of their better synthesizers, like the Voyager, you know, with the bigger patch bay, like the rack mount version or something like that. I would love to get my hands on one of those and just experiment, because if something this small and this is their entry level synthesizer can make sounds like I've been able to show you guys in the past few videos, I really can't imagine what the more expensive, you know, synthesizers have, with multiple oscillators, multiple envelopes, multiple filters, things like that. This is just such a great product. So if this is the video that you're watching and you're interested in getting one of these, get it. It's a great way to learn about modular synthesizers synthesizers, or even just learning about the synthesis and then applying that in a DAW where there's a lot of settings that you might not have known. It's great to have a tactile and instant feedback with whatever setting here does. So it also helps you know like what's under the hood and stuff like that. But this isn't the product review. I just felt like sharing that because this synth always impresses me when I use it. So, but that's kind of it for today. There are, again, other videos out there that I've made on other patches. If you guys like this one, definitely check those out. If you want to see more of these, subscribe below. And then if you really liked it, you can just hit that little bell to be notified when I release a new one of these videos. I'm pretty much going to be releasing one every week now that I have a little more time available. If you guys have any questions as well, leave them in the comments below. I'm going to leave a picture of essentially a schematic of this synth or this patch down below so you guys can recreate it exactly. There's a really great website that allows me to make these. I'll leave a link to that below as well. So that's it for today. I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Peace.